Good morning and welcome to our webinar on leading complex projects, solar energy. My name is Dr. Tony Prensa, and today I'm going to be the host for this event. I'm excited to introduce our guest speaker, Mark Burnett. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Mark. Mark is a certified project management professional, PMP. He's an Agile Scrum Master and a registered engineer. Mark is a global project management consultant, and he is the founder of ECONO-ProjectEX. Mark believes that all projects should be given the proper respect. He believes that standardization is the key to successful project delivery. His view is that blend of project management, technology, and engineering. Having worked in immersed high-pressure situations with Ericsson and other technology operators, Mark has supported a range of enterprise-class transformation projects for over 14 years. Mark is passionate about digital business transformation, mentorship and coaching, and project management office. He has been an active member of PMI, volunteering for different events, and he won a certificate of excellence. Congratulations, Mark. And also, he is a judge for the PMO Global Alliance, where he got another certification of outstanding contribution. Mark is also the co-host, organizer, and moderator of the Digital Transformation webinar series. I am excited to have Mark joining us today from Kingston, Jamaica. I encourage you to all to actively engage with him during this presentation. Please have Matt talk to us about leading complex projects in organizations. So I don't know if I left something from you, Mark, that you wanna highlight for the audience.
Yeah, I mean, that was a project well delivered, Dr. Tony. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure for me to be here. You're one of my mentors, and I consider you a legend. I mean, based on the impact of your work, it's a pleasure to be here. So, just the only thing I just want to say is that yes, I am from Kingston, Jamaica, and very recently I came to Trinidad and Tobago on duties, professional duties. So I'm actually in I'm actually in Trinidad right now.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Yeah, Mark, so we're gonna start, or I'm gonna start asking you a question or different questions, and also the audience can ask questions to you. So, Marianne, if you have any questions, you can write down in the chat box, and we move from there. So, my first question for you, Mark, is define complex project for us. Why is different from other projects that we do?
Wow, that's wow, what a question, Dr. Tony. But okay, when I first, I mean, and this idea was the reason why I started my journey too, Dr. Tony, complex project. And the first one, I think I had to, well, it was the second one. The first one was there was a massive, big mobile transformation project here in the Caribbean. Back in those times, we had to deal with phones. I mean, the cellular phones, like, I mean, the phone booth in the community. There weren't any mobile phones and things like this. So it was the evolution of mobile communication here. So that was the first project I had to work on, introduce the region to
What
3G.
year was that? In
This
what
was
year?
in 2007.
2007. Yeah,
Yeah,
I,
2007.
I remember that transition.
Yeah, this transition, the evolution of 2G technology, 3G, and then after that the 4G. But complex project, and then I was in an unfortunate situation where I ended up in the hospital, And that's where I define what is really a complex project, because I was like minutes away from amputation. I was that close to it, you know. And it was really the mindset of a project manager that allowed me to overcome, you know, and that's where I got the opportunity to define what is a complex project. So I think a complex project is a blend of, you remember when we used to talk about VUCA, right? Volatile environment, an uncertain environment, one what has chaos, you know, and one that is ambiguous. So just a blend of all these things is what I think would really underscore a complex project for me, you know. So you pretty much have to overcome all these things in order to deliver.
Mm-hmm. So that's a great things. Following with that experience, what were the common challenges that you face as a leader, and how did you overcome those challenges in
Okay.
leading, for example, one of those projects?
Yeah. So, you know, I would say, I mean, one of the most the popular one of the popular challenges that I have to overcome is really like creating a collaborative culture, you know, because like for example here in the region, right, and then some other projects that are connected, most of the times it's like you have to always be building a new culture, you know, because how it is here in the Caribbean, and I've seen in other situations, is that most times you're working in an environment that it is not, the maturity is not really there for project management, you know. And because the maturity is not there for project management, is as if you are delivering and you're building your people and you're building that environment that can empower and create that sustainable success, you know. So, and while you have to also communicate this to your sponsors, the decision makers, the executives who are very influential in all of this, you know. So I think this is the common challenge that I see in my career, just to create that kind of environment. It's not easy.
Mm-hmm. So, so when you face those challenges, how do you tackle them? How do you address those challenges to overcome them and be successful? Because I know building a team is not easy, and we, the project managers, we are like the hand of the sandwich. So we are in the center. So we have the people that they need to do the work, but also we have the management on top. So looking at us, always judging what you are doing, if you're not doing right, if you're not communicating things right, and you need to make things happen. So how do you overcome that? Because that requires a lot of leadership and emotional intelligence to deal with a lot of people, and in your case, very technical people, because those complex projects require some special skill set to work on them. So can you tell us about that more, the human aspect of leading those complex projects?
Yes, I'm sure, Dr. Tony, and that's a very good point you mentioned there, emotional intelligence, because project is about communication, and it's about people, and how do you leverage those two? It's emotional intelligence, you know. And I would say, you know, from my experience, Dr. Tony, the first thing I do is that, of course, when you're going into any project, you have to be assigned. So there has to be some kind of interview, brainstorming process. And that's where you will learn about what it is that your sponsors want to achieve. And they will also learn about you too, and what is it that you are bringing to the table. And then that's where you'll be asking your questions about the direction where they're going, and what are their expectations, you know. And Yeah, and so that's the first step. And then after that, you don't just go in as a project manager and you start to set up a plan. You have to understand your environment. So requirements gathering, you try to understand the different persons, you set up your stakeholder management plan, you know, and of course, you will also, in alignment with your stakeholder management plan, your communication matrix, because you know you need to know based on what a particular person wants. So maybe the CEO, he doesn't want a weekly report. Maybe he just wants you to give him a call on a Friday afternoon, you know, and
Exactly.
let him know what's happening, you know. And you will try to do this. You will try to gather. You will try to allow the team members to understand you. You understand them, you know. And what I've also realized too, Dr. Tony, is that because I've mostly worked in multinational projects, right? And one of the things that breaks the ice is cultural exchange, you know. So for example, if I'm from Jamaica, maybe someone wants to know, how do you say, hey, or how do you say what's up in Jamaica, wagwan? And in maybe in Spanish, somebody wants to teach me, como le va, or que paso,
Exactly.
so these things break the ice, and you get to connect and you get to build relationships. And then from there, you're now able to put the pieces together. So you might start off with like, what kind of project is this? How can I do this? Is this one where I have to take an agile approach? Is this one where I might have to take an hybrid approach, a agile and a waterfall, adaptive, and then you will build your system from there and step by step connect with the people, because most of the times they have their ways of working and you don't want to go there and impose and to change anything rapidly. You want to just gradually work with them, integrate with them, and then if you have some value that you want to bring to the table, you can bring that to the table. And um, and of course, the sponsors and the executive leaders are very important in this too. So one of the things that I generally try to do is incorporate small wins. That's how you build trust from higher ups, and that's how you influence. So you will see on the roadmap, you will see from the expectations some things that they want to achieve, and you will try to achieve them, and you will try to have conversation, you will try to have discussion, and along the way you build and you gradually build with the team, and then you'd execute. So that's my approach. So it's one about people, it's about emotional intelligence, it's about being adaptive, and it's, I would say, 90% communication.
Yeah, that's great things. So I said the project management is about people management. At the end of the
Yes.
day, everyone know how to do their tasks, but we, as a project manager, we always have people judging our job. This Mark is knowledgeable about what he's managing, so he doesn't know what he's talking about. So we have, because we are people, we are complex. So I'm taking a certification as a advanced e-learning trainer. So I didn't have information about different kind of methodologies like mind mapping, but they call that
Critique
map,
leadership. Yeah.
empathy map. So the
Oh, okay.
empathy map, and so I'm gonna talk to Mark about leading complex projects. So why? Because you mentioned about breaking things in small pieces, like do incremental type of approach. It's like you
Yes.
eating the elephant one bite at a time.
Yes. Yes.
But I saw that tools, and you can there's a lot of YouTube videos and informations about empathy map. So they say it's a quadrant. In one of the quadrant, they say what people say. In the other quadrant, they have what people think. They have what people do, and also what people feels. So the quadrant is about that. So anything you filter in the quadrant, what people really feels, what they think, what they say about it. So it's an interesting concept when you're leading with complex projects, So how to break things in pieces. So, and then you create a huge map. There's a lot of YouTube videos that you can find about empathy map. So it's a great
Yes.
concept for dealing with complex projects. So I have another thing is in project management, and regardless how many resources the organization has. So I work for different global organizations. I work for Walmart in Arkansas.
Yes.
So Walmart is millions of employees. In
Yes.
IT, in the campus that I work, we have around 10,000 people.
Mm,
We have huge practice. Every project always have resourcing issues. We always have problem with allocation. In the last organization that I worked as employee, um, so we have 70,000 employees around the globe. Every time the clients were telling me, so well, why you don't have the resources? Because you have 70,000 people, you will see that you don't have one software developer or one analyst or one project manager for me. Yes, it's everybody's book. So how do you deal in a complex project environment with resource allocation?
okay. Wow. Wow. Yeah. Very, very, this is very, very good. And we can be here and we can have a conversation all day, because even this is where also the PMO, the next generation PMO, plays a very important role, you know. So the first thing I would say, and it's standardization first. You have to, as I was telling you before, you start to understand what is happening. You gather your requirements, the expectations, and
Mm,
then you start to prioritize based on what is on the table, and you prioritize and you flesh out how is it that you're going to execute with the team capability that you have.
mm,
Because not all the time you will have all the financial resources to get what you want at the time when you want it.
right.
So you have to prioritize, then you figure out in by standardizing how is it that you want to execute based on the team capability and based on what you guys can do. And so I think it will come down to prioritization, and then after that, communication. Because if you're working with an internal client, you still have to prioritize and communicate. You have to say, okay, I think we can do this with these people. We may not have these people at a certain time. So I think that's how you pretty much deal with resource allocation in complex projects. It's about looking at what is there on the table. You have conversations with the team, with the client, and you and then you have to be very transparent a lot of times, and then you pretty much make a plan based on the resource or the capability that you have. That's the best way. But what I've realized is that sometimes in these kind of situations, why we have issues is that we're not transparent with the client. We
Mm,
know that we don't have enough resources and we know what is at stake, but we're not honest. We're not transparent. But if you have a very good plan and a way of executing it, and you can sell that, which is a key skill of the project manager, you are
mm,
able to deliver in an iterative way, in an agile level, delivering value to your clients and your stakeholders.
yeah. So that's a good thing that you mentioned about transparency. I had a gentleman last week, Marcus Gowas. He is the outsource, so leading projects with data.
Yeah.
So I have a recording in my YouTube channel where he discussed about that. So one of the things that he mentioned, so is that you need to be transparent, but data talks. So you need to
Yes.
have data to support your facts and your conversation with management specifically. The top leadership, they don't like that you start saying, yeah, we are 90% completed. but they like data. So show me,
Show me.
show me the
Yes.
money, show me the money.
Show me
So
the facts.
exactly. So and Marianne. So if you have any question for Mark, please feel free to write it down in the chat. So Mark can answer. So we have the opportunity to have Mark. He's a busy man. so so let's take an advantage of this time that he committed to us and contribute to the project management community. So we're talking
Yeah.
about leading complex projects, and you have that situation also. Some of you that are dealing with this type of projects. So I have another questions why people think what question they're gonna ask to you. You talk about Agile
Yes.
and PMI with so one of the things that I put it comments because we're gonna talk about this afternoon the project management next generation. So I was thinking because I started too early. I think I have over 40 plus years of experience. I started working as a software developer when I was 17 in 1978. That's
Mm,
a lot of things happen after that. So I have seen a lot of transition. So talking about the next generation project management, um, I was thinking the transition from the triple constraint to the talent triangle. That's great things. Before in my when I started, so everything was about triple constraint, on schedule, on budget, according to the scope of the project. That was the triple. Then PMI added, I remember. So I got set, my PMP was in 1997. So I used the first edition, so the PMBOK for my PMP
wow.
certification.
Wow. Wow.
So let me grab one of the questions from the people here. So I have a question from Marianne. Um, She said, can you please elaborate more on the definition of a complex project?
Yes. Yes. Sure. So, you know, and I mean, as I said before, I mean, a complex project is defined, I mean, based on my experience, it's very volatile, it's chaotic, uncertain times, and it's very ambiguous.
Mm,
So, in the as a project management PMP certified, you see all these knowledge areas, and
mm,
they look all nice after you have completed your PMP. You see your business case, you see your charter, and all this. But when you're in a complex project, a lot of times, sometimes the project is started just on an idea. So there are no documentation, and you have to pretty much take an idea, translate an idea into a project. So sometimes you go on a project, there is no business case. So you have to gather whatever information that are there. Maybe sometimes it's just an Excel sheet with some data, you know, and you have to translate that into a project by, first you talk to your stakeholders, you see what is it that they want to achieve, the milestones, you create a project charter or a product project vision,
mm,
you get your teams together. And as I said before, in this day and age, it's very important to prioritize and to standardize how is it that you want to execute. It's not like in the older times when it's waterfall. We mostly know about waterfall. So it's some initiation to closure. Now it's about delivering value. And so you have to look at the information that you get in this chaotic environment and speak with your stakeholders to see what is it that they want. and deliver these milestones or small wins to them in an iterative way that builds trust, that builds confidence along the way until the project is finished. So I would say a complex project is just really one where it's no one size fit all, but it's one where it's chaotic. It's a lot of chaos, lack of resources with the chaos. It's ambiguous. Maybe when you go there, you will see a lot of misunderstanding between team members, initially, at the top, and you are tasked with the responsibility of, just getting everyone under the same umbrella. So I don't know if that helps, Marianne.
Yeah. So I could add a little bit. So when we talk about complex projects means it can be different. And she have another question is, does that mean Agile will be better approach to complex building? So that's what I gonna say, Mariam. When we talk about complex projects, I can talk about one that I have on the top of my mind. Complex projects are projects that you, for example, you are dealing with a new technology, new approach. There are uncertainty about what you gonna get at the end of the projects. So I have one situation in the bank that I worked by that time. So the CEO only gave us some statement. So he just says, I want to build the next generation bank. So online real-time transaction, no batch processing, because in banks, so we collect all the transactions during the day. At night, we have some process that run on the back end. So he said, no, that means double posting. So I don't want double posting. So we started exploring technology by that time developed by HP. Is called zero latency. Zero is the principle of that. So nobody knew about that. So that was very complex. And also because we were rebuilding all the banking application based on that concept. So we didn't find people with the knowledge that can help us. So we find someone in Switzerland that has some kind of experience with us. So we engaged that person in the project, and there was a lot of training. And this project touched one element of complexity is how many stakeholders. So, if you are PMP, there is a formula to determine how many communication channels you have. Do you have a project with, let's say, 200 stakeholders? Imagine that's a lot of communication.
That's a lot, yeah.
So that's a level of complexity. Another level of complexity is the budget. The larger the budget, more difficult to break it down in the different pieces required to manage the project. That's a level of complexity. Another one is the risks. So in December, when I was in the global summit, so one of the day I took a tool for the Grand Canyon. So in the tool, in helicopter, I took a helicopter for the first time. So we went flying over Hoover Dam. So when you see that thing was built by humans, so you can imagine how those people, there was like thousands of people died in the construction of the Hoover Dam. So he said, man, I haven't done complex projects. That's a complex project. And they finished the projects that's written the history. They completed the project 3 months ahead of schedule. That project, the Hoover Dam. So that's we mean with complex projects. So somebody asked a question. So I have that question for you. So you have been talking about Agile and traditional, and she's asking the question. So you mean that complex projects should be Agile, because you said that it's better to take this thing in pieces, like eating an elephant one bite at a time. So what do you think about that? Agile is better is suitable for this kind of projects or traditional?
Yeah, I mean, I would say from my experiences that there is no one size fit all, but I would say an hybrid mindset and an open mindset to the different methodologies is the right way to do things. So let me give you an example. So before, I've worked in the ICT, IT, telecommunication space, right? And in that space, they don't do a lot of earned value, you
Mm-hmm.
know. When I work in the renewables, space, solar energy, they do a lot of earned value, so day in, day out, there's a lot of earned value, using the Microsoft project, using the Primavera, there's a lot, of simulation, the reporting and all that. It's around earned value. And in the energy and solar space, you won't hear them talking too much about self-organized teams or daily stand-up, because the work packages and the deliverables are very different, it's infrastructure. So they don't really think like this. But for an experienced project manager, you will know that the agile approach in projects like this would be the mindset, not necessarily the techniques, but the mindset. So I give you a perfect example. So maybe um, you know, they're doing earn value. They are used to earn value management. So they like to quantify things. They like to look at costs, you know. So what you will do is that you would use that to your advantage to create collaboration between team members. So you can say, okay, the earned value is bringing a measurement to the return on investment, so you use that to your advantage to create collaboration in your meetings. So, in Agile, you would probably say 15 minutes for your daily stand-up. But in the solar renewable space, it's hard to have a 15 minutes meeting because there are so many different issues to challenge. So maybe your stand-up is a 1 hour meeting, but you do it in such a creative way around the things that they are used to. You understand that collaborative mindset, that mindset of communicating in the right channels, that mindset of doing the earned value around the incremental value that the client prioritizes, this kind of thing. So that's just from the solar renewable energy space. So I would say there's no one size fit all. I think the best approach is to have an open mind to adapt or adopt the different methodologies like the agile, the waterfall, or a blend of the agile and the waterfall, because most complex project, persons will ask you, they will ask you for a plan. They will still, the client will still ask you for a plan. You have to make a plan. Sometimes the agile aspect of things will really come internally in your team, how you operate, but maybe not necessarily with the client. There are situations where the agile can be an end-to-end agile approach with the client and with your internal team. Sometimes the relationship with the client is maybe just a waterfall approach where how you communicate and how you interact with them, but maybe internally you are working in an agile manner, so I think it's no one size fit all. I think it's just a blend of the different methodologies based on the environment that you're in.
Yeah, and that's important. So I have one comment from Shinit Ravi, and that's the definition. So when you have well-defined scope, so traditional or predictive is more suitable for that kind of project. When you have for infrastructure projects, it's a different type of cat.
Cat, yes.
Infrastructure projects, I can't imagine, for example, in the construction of the Hoover Dam, how they gonna do the stand-up meeting. So
Yes, yes, yes,
it's a lot of people for that reason, a lot of people say that Agile was designed. It was designed by the software developers, so that everyone is here. But in an infrastructure project, is different. So how are you gonna adapt those Agile principles to things when you can have collocation, because you have a team member
yes,
working over there in a factory or in a plant or managing the kind of things. So I think that as a project management leader, you need to determine what is the best approach. What tools do you have in your toolkit to address that particular situation? How you gonna communicate? How you going to calculate risk and establish the better strategies for that? And also to be, as you mentioned, that you need to be flexible and adaptable to the situation. And that's one of the things that PMI convey when we talk about the talent triangle. We need to change the way of working. So that's
yes,
a great answer.
yes. And even another example too, Dr. Tony, sometimes you go into I've seen cases where, and I'm not able to share, I mean, you know, the provider, but you go in and they do have a PMO, but because the PMO is not effective, you can see that they are running chaos. The environment is chaotic, and sometimes they may even say to you, do we need to get rid of the PMO, because they expect the PMO to remove the complexity of their projects. You understand what I mean?
Right.
And sometimes it's just about looking at the situation, having conversations, and then maybe say to them, can we make the PMO agile? And sometimes that could be the solution, just to make the PMO agile. You know, and that's an example that I've seen too, you know. So it's not, as you said, Dr. Tony, it's not a one size fit all. You have to look at your toolkit, your capability, and then you adjust from there.
Right. Yeah, so when I facilitate the PMP review courses, I tell people, project managers, you are superhuman, and so you need to prepare for that for the exam, because PMI thinks that we are superhuman. So we have all the tools in the toolkits, so you know how to manage budgets, and now we all uh, the people domain that we have 42% of the questions are from that domain. That means that you should be a servant leader, that you also have a high level of EQ, the emotional intelligence, to deal with conflicts, because we are humans, we're gonna have conflicts. So maybe you assign to a project when the team, they don't like you. So how are
Yes,
you gonna bring them to your side? At the end of the day, we are in the business, in the project business. So we need to make that successful. So I heard the other day that somebody was taking up, telling, so as a project manager, you are the CEO of a business, and the business is the project, because you have budgets and resources from the organization, and you need to make things happen so the organization realize the benefits faster and in an
yes,
effective way. So,
yes, yes, yes.
so I have another question. When we have these kind of complex projects, so I was saying about how many stakeholders do we have. So, so you have like a multiple sponsors for different things, and you have competing
Priorities.
interests, priorities. How do you deal with these kind of things in that environment when you have competing priorities?
Okay, competing priorities. To be very honest with you, Dr. Prince, you have to look. okay, when you have competing priorities, you know, this is one of the most challenging thing for any project or project manager. But I think you have to look where the highest value is. So you have to match the competing priorities to some value, you know.
Mm.
So say, for example, your client, you have your CEO and you have the client, you know, your CEO wants you to do something, right? And you have the client who wants you to deliver something at the same time. What you have to do is that you have to come up with a scheme, you know, just by observation and just by talking to the different people. And you have to say, you have to match value with your competing priorities. So if you realize that for the client, um, you know, the client has more stakes, and I mean, if we deliver more value here, it will put us in a better position.
Mm.
Then what you will have to do is that you will have to go to your sponsors. It could be your C-suite sponsors, and you have to say to them or explain to them some kind of meeting that, hey, I understand that we need to deliver here, but what I'm seeing is that you can put it on the table that I think more value is going to be added over here, and it's going to put us in our best position in terms of return on investment, in terms of business relationship, maybe in terms of footprint of the business, you know. So I think it's best to go with this particular priority that matches with this value, you know. And when you do that, have that kind of conversation, sometimes it's easy for you to say, go with a particular priority out of those competing priorities, you know. And this is generally my approach. So you will go where the most value, you think the most value is, and have a conversation to get the buy-in, and then you will proceed from there. Because if you don't do that, then what is going to happen is that, because everyone thinks their priority is important, everyone thinks their priority is important. And so the only way to leverage this is via communication. So you go where the most influence and the most value is, and you execute based on that.
Right. Yeah, and that's I think it's the right approach to follow. Because but you need to do your homework as a leader. As I mentioned, every project has a CEO, and the CEO is the project manager. So you need to have your business cases. So like Marcus was saying about leading projects with data. So when you present the options, so you need to present the option. What is best for the organization that you working for. So if you say that this is the project A is the priority, so why project A is the priority? What projects or what action gonna add more value to the bottom line of the company? That's how the senior leadership wants. So
Yes.
when you present them with data, so you don't need to talk too much. So data talks.
Yes. Data
So
talks.
and they will say, okay, so this one, so we're gonna have return investment. So we're gonna realize the benefits that in that project faster because we're gonna make X amounts of money, or we're gonna achieve this objective faster. So that's the type of things that we need to have. And so with data, so you have the respect from those key stakeholders. Because at the end of the day, so we know the organization, we have politics. So it's like as we think about this division, the VP, they're gonna have the bonus if he meets his expectation, the objective for the division. But so as a leader that we are, and we have all those toolkits, we have emotional intelligence, we have servant leadership, we know all the technical aspects of managing a project. So we need to take all of those things to convince them this is the best for the organization. So I always compare projects with a game. So I tell my learners, So project is a game. And if you have multiple projects, that's a championship. There are different games. Each game, in order to be the world champion, so you need to win a lot of games. So each project is a game and we need to win. The team is there, we need to win the game. But
You win the game.
the leader or the coach of that team, so you need to put everything together to work against the opponents. So
Yes.
everybody
Yes.
collaborates and say we are one team and we need to win the game. We need to deliver this project successfully, um, and also have fun as you're doing it. Life is too hard, so that's part of the leadership. So how can you create that? And you mentioned that about create that climate that all people feel welcome and people feel well doing it and enjoying what they're doing.
Yes, yes, definitely. And yeah, you mentioned it there, Dr. Tony, the facts, putting the facts on the table via data. And yeah, this is very important. And what I've realized too is that earlier on in the projects, you will see what you need to prioritize clearly. You will see based on the requests, you will know, what is the priority, and just by having your conversations. But what I realize is that most of the times project managers are forced to get into planning and all these kind of things, even without building that rapport with the project stakeholders, understanding what each person's prioritize and their role and their influence, you understand? And there is no one size fit all, but once you do that, it will be easy for you to make your case whenever you have a situation of competing priorities and you need to make a decision. And once you're making the decision, it's very important to put the data on the table and have that collaborative discussions, and so we all make a decision. Because if you don't do that, then it's difficult for you to get buy-in, because everyone thinks that their priority is important.
Right. Yeah, again, if someone I have another questions, I'm gonna have almost gonna wrap up the meeting. So I have one more question for you, and is what strategies do you use to stay organized and focused when managing a complex project with multiple moving parts? When we talk about complexity, so it's in our multiple things. So what strategies do you use, and also you suggest other people in the same situation managing and leading complex projects they should do?
Okay, so yeah, this is a very, very good question. Okay, so I will recap this one thing. So as I said, the first thing is to have those initial conversations. Yes, you read the contract. Yes, there are some information there, but sometimes that's just information, on paper or on the whatever. So it's very important to have those conversations to see in reality how the persons are thinking. So that's the first thing. And then I believe the second thing is to have your stakeholder management plan, that stakeholder categorization plan, to pretty much you're fleshing out their influence. How do you communicate with them? What is it that they want from the project, And I think once you have done that, it's very important to match communication matrix with that, like, because you have many moving parts and you don't want persons to be sending emails all over the place. You want the emails to be directed in the right channels, So it's very important to set this up with your stakeholders when they're requesting different stuff. Who is it that they ask these things to, So you want to do that at first. And then after that, it's very important to have like a milestone plan, you know, and this is like in the initiation phase, you know, you don't have all the details, but you're putting stuff together. Like, it's very important to know what is it that we want to deliver. So that could be in the form of milestones, or maybe there are no milestones. Maybe they just don't know what it is that they want. So maybe you have to speak with the team and you have to come up with a way how to deliver some things, or some things in an agile manner, you know. Or maybe there is nothing to deliver. Maybe you have to deliver like a pilot project or a prototype and use a demonstration. You
Right.
understand? But it's very important to identify a milestone or the value that you would like to deliver, or what you think it is, and you have that set up, and then you now will build around that, and
Right.
you go roll waving after that, you know. So I think that's the best way how to approach it.
Okay. Yeah, and you mentioned milestone plan, but for the agile mindset, you can talk about a minimum value product, MVP, and that's basically the same things in
Yes.
agile. So we don't talk a lot about milestone, but we talk about MVP. So when you consider this is a product that we're gonna deliver because that the product add more value, in Agile, I would say for Marianne that she was asking about Agile, it's a little easier when you tackle a complex project because it's like I like to use the example of the elephant. It's too big, so when you think about eating an elephant, how are you gonna eat an elephant? Well, yeah, so one one bite at a time. So you break the entire complexity in different pieces that you're gonna make that simple. So you're gonna have a backlog product, the product backlog with all those pieces, and then you prioritize and you work on this that are more value, and then
Yes.
create the MVP for that.
Yes, and just a quick one from my end as well, Dr. Tony, and in alignment with what you said, the MVP, you
Mm.
know, for example, in the solar renewable infrastructure space, right? I would sometimes play on my words. So, for example, I know if I say MVP, no one will understand. So I use milestone, but I'm still doing it in an agile way. So that's how I
Exactly.
would bring across the agile. So I know if I say MVP, no one will understand me. So I probably use milestone, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So that's all. And maybe I don't mention the word product backlog, but what I will do is that, as I said, they do a lot of earned value, you know. So I will look at my plan, and I will break down the plan into like tasks, you know. And so my task is actually my product backlog to me, but I wouldn't say a product backlog to them. I would say like a task list, you know, because that's what they understand and can relate to. So that's how I would bring the agile across into these difficult industry or areas, you know, by play on words and just flipping the concepts and the mindset.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. So it's like what you mentioned about knowing, so you do a lot of stakeholder management plan. So some people, they don't use that aspects of project management, but that's very important to have a engagement plan to know each stakeholder in your project. So that will
Yes,
give you an advantage.
an
So I
advantage.
have, because we are, I think that running out of time, but I have a combined question. So I want from you to tell people first where they can find more information and resources about leading complex projects. I think that you have a website, you have a podcast that you talk a lot about different topics. So that's one thing. And the other things to close this webinar, I want for you to tell three things that you would like to say the people here present and also the entire audience that they should do to lead complex projects. Three key things that they should do to move them in that direction so they gonna be successful I would say project manager leading complex projects in organizations.
Yes, definitely. Thanks for that, Dr. Tony. So I will start off with the three things, right? So the three things, from my experience and what I've observed from my colleagues around the world, is the first thing is to be open-minded and to be curious. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is project management is about people, So it's very important to have that stakeholder engagement, stakeholder management mindset to understand the people in the project, because this will always give you an advantage to do everything else, So that's the second part. And then the third is the communication. So that information that you have from being curious, being open-minded, talking to your people, you are able to set up the right communication matrix or channels, This will help you to do your project better, whether you're going agile or whether you're going waterfall or whether you're going a mix of agile and waterfall, or if you're planning on doing it lean, So I think those are the three advice that I would give. And this communication would allow you to also be adaptive and to do things in a step-by-step way, prioritizing, standardizing, and so forth, until your customer is satisfied throughout the project. Not only at the end, but they should be satisfied along the way with some small wins and stuff like this. And so those are my tips. And then where you can find me on LinkedIn. You can inbox me, feel free to inbox me about anything. Also, you could send me an email at mrkburnett@gmail.com. You can send me a mail, feel free to reach out. Also, I have a website, ECONO-ProjectEX. You can check it out on ECONO-ProjectEX website. ECONO-ProjectEX is also on LinkedIn as well. You can type in ECONO-ProjectEX and you could find information there. And I also have a newsletter called Reasoning with Mark, and it's on LinkedIn as well. So you can find me. Once you access my profile, you can find that as well, So just feel free to, I am always ready to share, to collaborate, to make the community a better place and to help and support,
Yeah. Well, Mark, that was a wonderful opportunity to have you here and sharing your experience and knowledge about leading complex projects. This is a very long conversation, so we just took a couple of things just to discuss. So as Mark is saying, so you can reach out to him in those websites. So he has a website in LinkedIn. He's very active in LinkedIn. And hopefully we're gonna have Mark again here to talk about all the aspects that we didn't talk about. So I would like to know from him about the next generation project management in leading complex projects, how artificial intelligence, how emotional intelligence, all those trends that we having, how those things impact the way we handle complex projects. So thank you very much, and thank you everyone that joined these meetings, and hopefully I see you this afternoon in the another webinar that we have with Dr. Ricardo Viana, to talk about project management next generation.
Yes, and thank you so much for having me, Dr. Tony. It was a pleasure being here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here and meet you. So see you in another opportunity here.
Yes, thanks. Definitely. Yeah.
Hey, have a great day, everyone.
Thanks.